Tom Hiddleston and Claire Danes are at the center of the faith versus science debate that threatens to consume the English village Aldwinter in the Essex Serpent, a new Victorian-era Apple TV Plus limited series adapted from Sarah Perry's 2016 bestseller, all while a slippery, unseen entity lurks beneath the surface. The story's anchor couple retains our attention, but the six-part series suffers from trying to cover too much area as it alternates between London and the rural Essex hamlet. This period drama, set in Victorian Britain and based on a novel by Sarah Perry, follows recently widowed Cora Seaborn as she searches for a mythological sea monster in the foggy marshlands of Essex, England. This intriguing premise is introduced in The Blackwater, an intriguing debut that helps set the tone for this six-part series, while also hinting at many more mysteries to come. While her sister Naomi observes from the safety of the shore, a girl repents her wayward ways in the murky waters. The girl's horrible screams and ripples in the water imply a monster lurking beneath the surface, moving towards its next victim. The people believe a flying serpent, possibly an analogue of the devil, has kidnapped one of their own and is haunting the marshlands, playing on the fears of the time. Tourists gather to see the creature in person, and the shoreline quickly becomes a circus of rumor and stories in first episode titled The Blackwater. Cora Seaborn's husband dies of throat cancer in London. Cora decides to find a new purpose in life after her terrible marriage ends. Cora doesn't cry, and no one else in the family appears to be affected by his death, which is addressed later in the episode. With her newfound freedom, Cora resolves to pursue her dreams and track down the mythical sea beast for herself, making her way to the eastern shore. The series progresses at a great, steady pace as the lucky lady meets Vicar Will Ransom while out exploring and encounters a possible love interest in Dr. Luke Garrett. It's not precisely a gothic work, but the show has its own particular feel and textures that, like the novel itself, create an intriguing new universe to get lost in. Will, Hiddleston's realistic vicar, tries to calm the situation. Hiddleston's down-to-earth vicar as hysteria spreads, Will tries to quiet the crowd, but news of the missing girl Gracie's likely finding sends the village into a frenzy. This adaptation is beautifully filmed and thoughtfully crafted, and while it moves slowly, it hints at plenty of drama to come. The gothic and occult elements lend a layer of uniqueness to the proceedings, as this is a show that hasn't been well represented previously. In episode 2, the townsfolk prepare for another attack with netted fencing and speared traps after discovering Gracie Banks' rotting corpse on the marshes at the end of the premiere. The flying snake causes chaos among the God-fearing population as rumors spread like wildfire throughout the neighborhood. Cora uses politeness and science to try to soothe the townfolk, but they appear to distrust the outsider at every turn. As the story takes root, Vicar Will Ransom begins to separate himself from the riotous mob and questions his own faith. Cora settles into a charming coastal cottage and begins to investigate the weird goings-on, to the chagrin of the villagers. It's another gorgeously shot episode, with raw landscapes and period-accurate slum streets. Even the opening titles feel like a recreation of the novel's front cover. There is some beautiful filmmaking going on here. It's just a shame the plot moves at such a glacial pace. Dr. Luke performs a successful heart operation in London, while socialist Martha writes to a lawmaker about horrible living conditions. Will and Cora's friendship blossoms as the two intellectuals spend more time together. He even gives her a lobster fossil as a keepsake. The vicar, who is well-read and reasonable in his reasoning, appears to be open to more scientific ideas. With Will examining Cora's violent history and an evident flutter of affection in the air, there's an unspoken tension between the two. It would be unfortunate if the two had a shady relationship, but I wouldn't be surprised. The plot plods along until a really absurd conclusion emerges. Cora requests to speak with the local kids in order to teach them about science and history. Will's crazed assistant Matthew Evansford is on hand to keep the subject from devolving into blasphemy or evolutionary dispute, but the mention of the sea beast sends the kids into a frenzy. The children chant and stomp in unison, as though possessed. Naomi had an epileptic seizure, and the grown-ups are in complete shock. Again, this may be consistent with the times, but it comes out as strange, almost comical. Matters of the Heart appears to focus solely on the medical aspect of the heart, with no emotional overtones. Hopefully, the show can return to the realism of the first episode, or at the least, explain everything in credible terms.